Misfortune going to be the first of the two bans here from RNG. Neither side having locked in a marksman yet. They're going to remove another one of those big AoE wombo combo pieces from what could link up with the Kennen and the Maokai.
And I think the Kaisa would make sense here as well if you want to try and ban that away. I think what you're looking at here is a massive dive composition coming through from DFM. So I think something like a Kaisa that can follow up on that would be really strong. But we also know that Gala is a massive fan of that pick. I just don't know if he'll get it on, first rotation because Yutapon can take it away.
Exactly, right? I expect them to take it away, especially with them banning the Aphelios. We've already seen RNG answer the Kaisa before with the Aphelios who's playing so far, but things like the Tristana are still open. So if DFM opt into the full dive with the Kaisa, I wouldn't be surprised to RNG to answer with that pick, but no, they actually go with that one first.
Alrighty, the Tristana's locked in, the Aphelios, the Caitlyn are banned away. Back over to RNG. I need to see an AD carry, I need to see a support. How interesting is this gonna get? Gala is one of those AD carries that can kind of just pop off no matter what may happen. So I love to see the spiciness. Come on, lock that in. Lock that in.
I don't know if he'll get it. Look, Gala's been a big fan of the Kaisa, and he has a handful of champions that he feels really, really confident on, and Kaisa is like the pick for him. And you get Ming onto his pick as well in the Nautilus. This is banned away from RNG so often because how disgusting Ming is on this pick.
As someone who is not a primary LPL caster, Kaisa Nautilus is the LPL bot lane that comes to mind when I think of the region, when I think of what they pop off on and what is just devastating.
It's also just because Ming, like, when you think of busted Nautilus hitboxes,
yes,
Ming has made that like a staple in the LPL. He will forever lollipop every single hook behind every single minion wave. And the amount of times we've been sitting there going, how the hell did he manage that?
Alrighty, so we get the Kaisa Nautilus for RNG. Final pick for the other side on DFM here. It's Leona Tristana going up against that Lyric. How do we feel about these two teams now that the entire compositions are laid out for us?
I actually kind of like what DFM put together because we've talked, right? The scrappiness coming out from both sides and them having things like the mixed damage coming, right? Kennen in top side, Yone in mid. Every champion is able to jump in and follow up. If Xiaohu ever mispositions a little bit, he will just be cut out. So it feels like to me, like, sure, RNG have the same engage and dive potential, but need to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to come from Xiaohu in the early stages. If they can get that lead, well, then their dive is just going to be substantially stronger, right? And then they can actually try and play off of Gala at getting access to the backline, trying to pop Yutapon. But as Lyric is saying, if you fall behind and Kaisa can't get that one-shot potential, you don't have that damage coming through, it's going to be a big issue for RNG.
What's up, everybody? Here's us up. You didn't see
oh, wait,
us earlier.
The curl goes this way, maybe.
Are you all right? Lyric's trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the hair here, but yeah, this is going to be what I hope to be an incredible series. The last one much quicker than a lot of people were expecting. This one, I know, coming into it, RNG very, very heavy favorites. When I went and did my pick'ems last night, I know the global poll was somewhere around like 92, 93% of people believing RNG are going to walk away with this one. So DFM certainly have a hill to climb. We're onto the Rift here for the first time in this series. One thing that immediately jumps out to me, Xiaohu playing that Taliyah, not needing the teleport because he's got the ultimate to get him around the map a little bit, taking the cleanse to get out of some of the CC instead.
Yeah, taking the cleanse is the area as well, so wanting to really try and punish heavily in this laning phase. Typically in matchups like this, right, you have prio until that level 3 mark is where Yone can start trying to get in with his dash, trying to find a bit of scraps before level 6 where he really wants to power through and combo together. So I think seeing where these junglers start especially is going to be pretty telling to how these teams want to play.
All right, and as they look for one another here at the level 1s, remember you can link your league account with Prime Gaming to receive some free in-game content. So if you haven't already done that, go do it, go get it done, get yourself some nice freebies. And now it looks like we're not gonna get a whole lot interesting going on here at the level 1. So let me ask you guys, Dagda, where do we expect to see things really open up here in the early game?
I'm really looking towards mid lane. I think one of the big things that a lot of people are talking about for RNG with the way the meta is kind of shifting is getting Ming back out onto the map. And that has always been traditionally playing around Xiaohu. And when you've got something like this Taliyah that wants to try and push, you got Wei there. If you can 3-man in towards mid, try and pick off Yaharong, I think you can try and get the ball rolling. Even just accelerating Xiaohu into a good position so he can get access to the map is good.
I think especially because DFM definitely want to target mid. Like, you kind of have 3 lanes that you're able to play around, right? Kennen going to be able to bully up in that top side. You have the all-in and bot, but having a melee and range matchup, you need the jungle attention because you want the 2v2. So for RNG, I would expect Wei to look to cover mid, but if you can go bot first, try and find setup for a gank, and then unlock Ming so you can have numbers advantage in mid lane. RNG will be in a solid spot to counter that aggression.
Yep, Ming's ready to start those scraps here, 2v2 nice and early. Worth pointing out, since both of our junglers are starting on the top side of the map, pathing down towards the bottom side, we could see some more scraps around these 2v2s, potentially turning into 3v3s if both junglers want to get involved. You can see there is a ward placed by DFM on the chicken camp of RNG, so to be able to see if Wei starts that one up. Steel just going straight into the Gromp for himself, and we'll just kind of keep an eye on how things are playing out down here with those junglers being ready to path towards it. When Scuttle Crab spawns, obviously whoever's got more control over this lane is going to be able to lend that control to their jungle.
And a lot of that is going to be coming from the mid lane for Xiaohu, right? Just crashes the wave. You now look at where Wei is. He's moving out into river to make sure that you can try and pick that one up. So already we see these moves trying to come through where they can spot out where DFM are, but Steel might have read this. He snuck his way into bot side, and I don't think RNG are aware.
Okay, Steel's just hanging out here, back in the very, very back part of the brush here. Harp just gonna go ahead, use that sweeper, make sure that nobody is able to see what Steel is doing as he creeps around the fog, has made his way into the second brush, and now they're ready to engage. They'll go after Ming. He's just walking it off. Alrighty, they got the flash out of both RNG bottom laners. So now I'll be looking for DFM to return here before those cooldowns are ready.
It was just a nice play overall by DFM as well, because Xiaohu actually checked DFM's jungle, saw the blue buff was still up, so not a whole lot of information on where Steel was, which is what allowed that play to work out so well. So when we talked about RNG wanting to lean towards bot first, potentially, before making any plays towards mid, I feel like DFM have read that play very well.
Yeah, and I know it's going to be a case of how can RNG try and bounce back from this. I think Yaharong kind of doing a good job there of leaning down into river to make sure that they can push way back into their own jungle. Breathe is actually doing pretty well up here, getting a lot of these trades back and forth as well. The Arcane Comet has been something that we've seen a lot over in LPL, specifically into these range matchups like Dinar, so you can just continuously trade with those Darken Blades.
Right, it's one of those things that doesn't quite give you the same power later on. You're not going to become as much of an unstoppable drain tank in the team fights. But those quick trading patterns, particularly just in the 1v1s, going to feel a lot more comfortable for him. And you can see, breaking even in a Kennen lane as a melee champion is always going to feel great early on in the game.
I think especially because you say we looked at the stats, Evie in wins to losses is huge. Like, he has typically been the DFM member that if he can find the lead, he is the main carry. If he gets set behind is when DetonatioN FocusMe have struggled.
Yeah, I think though we are going to see a lot of pressure bot, because I was looking at the screen there, I was like, okay, junglers are just going to go for the reset, but immediately they go to bot lane first. It's like, we're just going to be here in case any funny business happens. And it definitely feels like that's where a lot of the focus at the moment is for both these guys. And if Yutapon can get those leads, we know what Tristana can do, right? You take over the lane, you've got great all-in potential, you start to get those third plates. That is going to be a terrifying prospect if DFM can get ahead.
Okay, we've got the XP per level on your left side of your screen right now. The big thing to keep your eyes on there is Xiaohu almost to level 6, about 3/4 of the way there. Once Taliyah unlocks that, that's when I really want to see RNG start trying to make these moves. Overload one side of the map, get something going on. Breathe is obviously unafraid of fighting Evie. If you can go up there, cool. Bottom side, you guys have already talked so much about how that's going to be a pivotal part. And Xiaohu right now is going to step into the enemy jungle, see what Steel is up to, see if he can harass him a little bit during this farm. Yaharong takes the chance to go in with a soul unbound. Not hitting the Q3 though, means he just snaps back to right where he came from. Fate Unsealed now ready. Yone's got some playmaking too.
Exactly. This is where we can start seeing DFM really put pressure on this mid lane matchup, because if Yaharong can get those aggressive all-in trades in mid lane, start chunking Xiaohu out, he isn't going to be able to look for these roam timers. And I was kind of curious to see what RNG would do, because their comp kind of has the ability to play both sides of the map, right? You can have Wei pathing down and playing for bot, while Xiaohu can be the decider. Hey, if Breed gets a good trade, he actually can lean up, and you have DFM making all these hard choices. But it looks like what you said, Dagda, that both junglers and both teams are just always going to be inching closer to the
That was one of the big
map.
talking points we had in the LPL though, was how good Xiaohu was at like trying to cover the opposite side of where Wei was. Like traditionally you'd see your mid laner roam down, kind of link up with the jungler and try to play for say bot lane, right? But oftentimes Xiaohu would be like, okay, I'm on a roaming mid laner, something like a Galio, I'll actually lean top side and make sure that I cover any sort of cross map. So it'll be interesting to see how RNG do want to try and set it up, if they think, okay, we have enough in the 3v3 that we can win it out, or if they feel like they need Xiaohu's help as well.
And we can see now, DFM, I mean, Yaharong able to get the pressure mid after getting his ulti up. and then using the bot side pile they had after the wave crash to turn it right into a dragon.
Yeah, and DFM taking this dragon, you can see they throw the extra little tree baby into the pit, so in case Wei would try to jump over the wall and steal it away, at least he would be slowed down in that approach. Not gonna happen. RNG is not interested in contesting that objective. It will go over very early to DFM. This has not been a tournament of a lot of early dragons, so getting that first one online at 7 minutes feels good.
And it's a great start for DFM, right? Especially when you look at this, the LJL and DFM who've represented for so long. Last year was the first time DFM get into groups. If they manage it for a second time taking down RNG, what a massive talking point that would be for this squad heading into groups.
All right, Wei, let's see if there's anything to find up here. No Sejuani ulti makes it a lot more difficult than it otherwise might be. The Kennen, very slippery unless you've just got some of that easily applicable CC. Evie's ready to turn it around here with a slicing Maelstrom. Gets stunned up, but he's back underneath his turret in time. So DFM's top laner has to spend his ult. He has to go back to base, but he does not use the flash to survive it.
Yeah, swing and a miss there from both Wei and Breed. They're not able to connect with the initial CC, means that Evie's just about able to escape away out of that. Also, just having steal there means that he was trying to see if he could hover on for a while to bait them in a bit more, but not going to be the case.
Yeah, still for RNG, though, the fact you're able to get that ultimate out from the Kennen when Rift Herald is spawning feels quite nice. Still having Breeds online, so I feel like RNG are feeling incredibly confident right now to look for this Rift Herald. It looks like DFM not even going to go for a contest, knowing they blew that ultimate, so gonna need to see them trade down in bot side, but they do have the Tristana that you're hitting on.
That's what I was about to say. It's a good shout. I mean, you're able to move Tristana down here. She should be able to tear through some of these turret plates relatively easy, but at the moment, a little bit of a slow push here for, slow move from Gala and Ming back down towards this bottom side, but should be able to stop too much damage from going over.
So with this first turret plate going down there, the second one's going to drop very swiftly after. This is always one of the comparisons that I like to look at when one team gets Herald and the other side just declines to answer that fight and keeps their guys bottom instead. Hey, you already got 2 plates back. That's the expectation of a Herald unless you can make a much bigger play with it. I think if you're DFM, you're pretty happy.
Oh, 100%. And especially because yesterday I feel like we saw a lot of moments against Loud where they were a smart team. They did have, you know, good rotations. And they are one of the teams that are just going to stare at you in front of an objective and waste time.
Yeah, the biggest problem when it comes to that rotation, though, is just Xiaohu kind of getting the jump on you, right? Because he's got that Weaver's Ball, you can very easily push mid, create a numbers advantage on side lanes, and use the Rift Guard in that regard. And especially with the amount of focus that has been put on bot side already, it feels like that will more than likely be the case. And you can see at the moment RNG are trying to set up for that. Clear out the vision that might have been placed down by DFM to spot any sort of roams from RNG.
I also like the idea of them putting Herald bot just for the idea that if they decide and elect to go topside with it, it will open up for the Yutapon to probably just honestly outright finish the turret bot side with how much pushing power the Tristana has. So I don't want to see RNG let any of those cross-map opportunities through for the side of DFM.
So one thing I'm surprised about here, boys, it is almost 10 minutes into the game. There are plenty of engage mechanisms on both sides, but we are yet to find first blood still. Let's see if I cast or curse it. Breed's gonna get jumped on here. Harp, flash, stun. Evie has the damage with the burn, and the first blood actually goes over to Harp. DFM are on the board.
Why you gotta do us like that? You're going fine. Why you gotta do us like that?
You know, this was actually the tryout for next year, Cap. We hadn't let you know yet, but not off to a great start.
Well, I'm sorry, boys, but sometimes I just need some PvP in my League of Legends, and DFM are the ones to deliver, bringing the support up to the top side there with the roam. They get it going. Unfortunately, the kill goes to that support instead of to Evie.
I think it was just a good timing as well from them, right? You can see RNG weren't really in a position to get too much on a cross map. They get, sure, some vision control on the bottom side, but they weren't actually able to set up for that play we talked about with Xiaohu being able to lean down the bot side to try and make the turret play happen. So just really nice setup there from Yaharong, and playing off his kind of minion wave in the mid lane and moving up to top side.
And now I feel like for RNG to answer that play that DFM made, they are going to have to make use of this vision, right? We have Dragon coming up soon. I like the Herald play that they're going for now. We can see DFM already starting to respond to it with a TP, so I don't expect RNG to find too much like they're angling for with Ming waiting off to the side. But if they can find a fight coming to 6 Dragon...
Oh, baby, Yaharong, that's not where you wanted to be. Wei gets the money. RNG get 3 plates and a kill to go with it.
I feel like the caster curses have worked way too well at this event.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if RNG should have been able to find anything there, but great by Ming. Didn't even have to use his flash, just waiting for Yaharong to overstep a little bit too much.
Here, look, today feels like a day of first, so I'm not going to breathe easy until he get this across the finish line. But, I mean, look, nice job from RNG, right? You get the plates, you're getting the push that you need. Xiaohu now as well, having a bit more control of that mid lane should help out substantially, because even though he has managed to shove in Yaharong, it's actually been Yaharong who's been able to get out and get the moves on the map first. So now Wei going to see if he can try and right the wrongs the top side as well.
Alrighty, Wei. He has no ulti available, still about half left on the cooldown timer. So Evi's going to have to get a little closer for this to work out. Looks like Wei will just, okay, maybe not, maybe not. They're waiting again. He's willing to commit a little bit more time to this, having plenty of patience. Breathe just going to go ahead, throw a couple of spells out, see if he can taunt that Kennen into coming up there for him. But now with Xiaohu coming north as well, RNG may be ready to commit even more to it. They're ready to, if Evi steps forward just a little bit, they are ready to go on this.
I'm surprised how much Sejuani's coming up here. Yeah. They're also just going to end up giving DFM a free dragon.
Well, there it goes. They got to try to make this play happen. Evi goes in for the flash, gets away from the seismic shove, keeping himself alive nicely so far. But 3v1 is just too much, and RNG get the kill. But DFM should be able to get this objective on the other side of the map.
And for DFM, I think it's a fine trade. Evi does go down. It doesn't look like RNG should be able to get too much off the back of turret plates. But even just setting their composition up to where RNG are going to have to fight them soon so they don't go into things like Soul Point and Soul. And Flowers, it seems like your job's not done yet.
Alrighty, boys. Let's see if it turns into a whole lot. Doesn't look like it. The minion wave gets cleared out, and so RNG will keep their bottom lane safe.
This is such a different look from RNG, though. We've seen them highly prioritize dragons in the early stages of pretty much every single one of their games. They have an 80% dragon control rate across all their games so far, and DFM had come in and gone, no, that looks like a good idea. We're going to take over control on this bottom side of the map. We're the ones that are going to be playing for this, and yes, they do get a kill on the cross map, but DFM, they're looking real good right now.
Yeah, DFM, again, I also just like the way it's going to force RNG to have to scrap with them soon. They just can't keep avoiding these fights. And for DFM, I feel like this pace of game feels very comfortable for them from what we've seen so far. They definitely were one of the slower teams in their group in terms of wanting to play for more of those late game tussles, those late game fights, which is why we typically see a lot of those picks banned away from them. So DFM honestly off to a great start. This isn't their first time in play-ins having to play against an LPL team to make it to main stage. So far, hopefully off to a good start.
And everybody, I just want to go ahead and point out, there are no champions on the bottom half of Summoner's Rift. Everybody's ready to party here on the top side, and Evi is not invited. He'll be killed immediately as Harp is the next one in their sights. Stunned up by Sejuani, but DFM has their jungler here ready to maybe have a counterattack or at least keep everybody else safe. Yutapon will clear out the wave, but RNG pick up a freebie there on that one.
Yeah, you can see now they're going to move over towards the Rift Herald as well. Yaharong not exactly in the best of spots to try and contest this with the push that Gala had, so it looks like RNG should be able to get the second Rift Herald for themselves as well.
Alrighty, look, let's take count of how many ultis are not available though, because it's still Sejuani and Taliyah that don't have anything to work with here. So RNG, they won't be able to look for any sort of a play afterwards. They'll just bring everybody back mid, deal with this wave. DFM, unfortunately, losing that top laner up there, not expecting this, ends up costing.
No, we just see RNG able to get up here, especially with that ultimate coming out from Sejuani. Like, DFM had the same amount of members, but not able to react in time. Harp luckily able to get away in the end, and a play like this is much more bread and butter RNG, especially thinking back to their success last year, right? Always being the team to be able to overload the top side of the map first. And with DFM already having those dragons stacking, they really need to start finding these gold leads.
Well, the gold leads are pretty much non-existent for either side, right? I generally look at 300 or 400 as something that can swing back or forth depending on, hey, do you have a big wave to pick up or not? So the game finds itself very close. DFM are obviously happy to have those first two Drakes, especially in a Rift that has been blessed by the Hex Tech Drake because that soul is so valuable. But now you're forced to answer the question, can we get those last two? Can we make good on this early soul stack?
Or do you even try and contest, right? Because if you've got Yutapon there, he's going to blast his way through a couple of towers like Danny DeVito. So if you can just leave him to us, well, why do you need to try and contest on these dragons? Let's just try and play the map a little bit better and give, one of these dragons across to RNG and just make sure we can pick up all the standing gold.
I think especially when we look at items right now, right? Because RNG pretty much Mythic's done across the board. Yeah. DFM still waiting on some to come through. Of course, Yaharong going towards that plate of the Rune King for a bit more early power. But RNG, I feel like definitely feeling strong in the 5v5 because of that.
I love how we started off this game thinking, oh yeah, this is all going to be about bot side. And RNG were like, no. We're going to bring the bot to top, and we're just all going to 5-man here. Because even when you look at your screen, right, we're seeing Ming trying to step into that top side jungle, pressuring Evi back off that top side turret. It does give Xiaohu access to the tier 1, which should be able to take, so nicely done. But definitely you can see RNG now starting to make their mid-game their own, where they try to play the map as brutal as possible.
We've got 60 seconds till that next Drake spawns. Scuttlecrab vision just about to disappear in a few seconds here for DFM. You're going to see Harp go ahead and channel his recall, get back to base, get some control wards. We'll see if they want to engage this or if they're just going to do what you were talking about, Dagda, and trade away that Drake pressure they've earned so far for some of this standing gold. Pass up on a fight where you have to take it without having those items completed. You can see the Anathema's chain done for Steel there, opting to go for that one first as opposed to completing the Mythic. Proto Belt done on Kennen. That's a big playmaker as well there for Evi to be able to contribute a lot to these team fights. But another thing that I got to keep my eyes on when we're thinking about if we're going to get a big 5v5 is the status of summoner spells. RNG's got everything, and DFM's got everything except a Kennen TP.
Also, the big things that you like is for a Hextech Gate when there's a Kennen in the game. These give you the opportunities to try and swing yourself into these more advantageous positions unless Evi's caught.
Oh, Evi! Man, you gotta stop finding yourself this way. There he goes, gets away from that one, loses half HP though, and with RNG chunking out the enemy top laner when he still does not have that TP ready to rejoin, they're gonna take this Drake, and it's DFM just leaving Yaharong in the top side to take the tier 1 and trade.
And the big difference maker was the setup in this play, because RNG already having vision down, Dagda just hit on it, whether it's a Hex Gate or them having any kind of vision for people like Evi and Yaharong to come from different angles, those are the types of fights that DFM want. RNG are so happy if DFM are just standing right in front of them and Xiaohu can just unload all his damage. Does make it a bit better when Evi does just kind of run in by himself. But yeah, DFM sadly needing the vision, needing some semblance of pressure to be able to enter in from different avenues.
Alrighty, DFM. Things are not looking so great in the past couple of small engagements, right? Like Evi getting caught off guard a little bit. And that's one of the things that I worry about as we get into the mid-game very solidly now. It's one of the conversations that always happens when you're looking at major regions versus minor regions. Is macro play and 5v5 team fighting, and how the edge is almost always in favor of the major region. It's one of the things that really separates the two different types there. And so for DFM, especially after what was a very back and forth messy series yesterday against Loud, I feel like the coordination's really gonna need to level up here if you want to be able to go toe-to-toe with RNG.
Yeah, and I feel like that works twofold this game. One, because RNG might be the best mid-game team coming from the LPL despite being our 4th seed. They're really good at making these plays on sides, kind of taking 2 objectives at once and making the enemy have to work for a fight to win. And secondly, that DFM's composition should be good at making these cross-map plays or playing sides, getting turrets done before RNG are able to answer. RNG should be the team that's relying more on these 5v5s.
The thing is, though, RNG have been doing a really good job of sweeping out all the vision that DFM established. They got themselves situated all on that top side. Well, you can see how dark that side of the map now is for DFM. And again, you're just kind of playing this game with RNG where it's like, cool, we will try and control river. We'll start to eke this line slowly but surely forward, whereas DFM kind of instantly tried to grab a bunch of space, which made it easier for RNG to clear it out.
I will say for DFM, the one shining light is that they have been able to get gold onto Yutapon. We can see right now him sitting about 30 CS up over Gala. Already 2 items done, so he's going to be their big damage dealer once we get into a skirmish. Evi as well, going to want to find some sort of impact, but just hasn't been able to do it yet.
And when we talked about Yaharong, kind of, oh, hang on a second.
Oh boy, Evi's ready on the flank. This time it's Wei being forced to flash out, trying to escape away from those roots. And now Wei and everybody on RNG can turn it right back around. Evi has been found again and again and again. 0-3 in this game.
Just small oversteps costing DFM and allowing RNG to thrive when it constantly looks like they're about to be punished, but they're able to thrive.
And again, it was just a nice play. You saw Xiaohu already leaning to mid to make sure that he could cover. Yaharong was still trying to put attention onto tier 2. They might find Xiaohu, but he's found company.
Oh boy. Yaharong just snapping back early to get away from that anchor of Ming, make sure he doesn't get caught out there. He knows he's got to back up because RNG have plenty of bodies in this top half of the map. RNG now getting their guys back in position here at the tier 1 in mid, so Yutapon's not able to take that and knock it down with Tristana. Weaver's wall ready to come in as Wei will look for the flank here on Harp. Teleport's now about to show up for both sides. Evi still has no Kennen ulti, but Wei has no flash and no way out. Steel's gonna grab the kill on the enemy jungler, but now Harp is low, and Evie is the same. Another TP showing up. Yaharong's made his way in. DFM grab a second kill, and Evie still survives. Breathe tries to get away, but Steel's got him locked down, and Yaharong seals his fate. Yutapon goes right back in. Xiaohu has to flash, and DFM just crushed RNG in a team fight.
DFM outman RNG on the play. The TPs are in better spots. They pick off the members they need, and now they're moving over towards the Baron.
This is exactly what DFM wanted. If DFM are gonna, for the first time, take down an LPL team, take down the MSI champions, getting the team fight, getting the Baron, if they could translate this into a game one, that would be huge.
And there it is, Baron at 22 minutes for the LJLT.
And we see here, right? Dagny, you were just saying that the better positioning coming in. RNG thinking they found Harp, but he manages to get away. And I love the positioning that Evie comes in on because they know Way's Flash is still down from the last play. So this time it's him overstepping a little bit, gets picked off. And then sadly, with him down, with Ming already getting chunked out, you really don't have a frontliner to absorb all this damage because Breed's on the opposite side of the fight.
Yeah, the position on the TPs was just great. You see the first one zoning off Gala and Ming from the start of that so they can go on to way. Then you get Yaharong aggressive TPing, but here we go.
Oh, we are not done, my friends. Yaharong getting himself right back to where he started here with Soul Unbound. That incredibly powerful E on the Yone, allowing him to dive in and then escape. But the dragon spawning in 5 seconds, and RNG now have the advantage.
And you got 2 items now on that Yone as well. Yaharong wants to see if he can try and step up big in this fight. DFM already have good position, and they've got a good front to back here. This is where it gets a little bit risky for RNG. Keep your eyes on Evie to see if he can make the play with that big ultimate.
Alrighty, this could tell us so much about the fate of this game. DFM's tanks are going to start up the Drake, but they're not going to commit heavy DPS to this, not just yet. Now they'll pull it out, start to put a little bit more damage into it. Evie remains on the flank. He wants to be able to find a slicing maelstrom that can really change the fight. Drake goes over to DFM. Steel fires off the ulti. Wei takes a little bit of damage, but not a whole lot. Nautilus ulti back onto Steel. They're just both hitting tanks. Ming goes in, finds Evie, but he doesn't find him well enough. It's Ming who ends up giving him a freebie. Knock, knock, the food's here. DFM get a freebie on top of their third Drake.
Yeah, DFM now on Soul Point. The fact that they already have Baron is just huge. Now gonna be able to start translating this into map control into a big gold lead is, yeah, Wei, that was not it. That goes wide. DFM now gonna be able to reset off that one, but look at what Yaharong's been doing in the side lane. Able to get this pushed in, and they just keep denying RNG gold and objectives on the map.
This is fantastic from DFM. They're doing such a good job of causing RNG to overextend continuously. Ming goes to the hook. He ends up so far out of position. DFM can collapse on him. DFM are playing this composition wonderfully, and RNG just can't do anything about it, right? Like Steel here, great ultimate, zones off RNG, kind of what we talked about. Like, they want to try and get access to backline with the Gala, but they're not able to do so. And then again, Ming goes for Evie, but who follows up here? Like DFM, great ultimate coming through from Harp that keeps the rest of RNG at bay. They can deal with Ming. Like, they are just playing and executing around these ultimates so much better on DFM's side.
And DFM, we talked about it in the draft. The AoE and the team fighting this squad has. When you look at Yone, when you look at Maokai, when you look at Kennen, there's just this massive area of threat that is so difficult to approach for the squad of RNG if they don't have good setup with a Taliyah flank, with a full group dive that Gala is able to join in on, and it's DFM setting up better and paying off.
I think especially when you look at RNG's tools, right? A lot of single target CC coming through, both Sejuani, Nautilus, all single target. Gala only going to be single target damage. Anything else you're relying on Xiaohu and Breathe, and we've seen they really just can't muscle their way into these fights. So for DFM now, I think you can take it a little bit slower. We can see them finally answering the side pushes that RNG had going earlier on, because now you have such an obvious win condition right in front of your face with Soul.
Yeah, and I mean, Yaharong is so incredibly strong in these side lanes as well. There's just no way for Xiaohu to actually deal with them. Like, you can see every time Yaharong steps up, especially now that he's got the Sunfire Aegis as well, he can go for dives, and Xiaohu will just fall. So this is where RNG now will start to struggle trying to play out the map correctly, and you can already see this is where Yaharong can start to get aggressive.
Yeah, it's actually crazy that I feel like the most effective CC on DFM's side right now is just the threat of Yaharong pressing R. Just the idea of him doing that prevents RNG from being able to do anything.
It's one of those funny things about League of Legends. Sometimes the threat of an ability can do so much more than using the key even can, unless it's just a perfect execution of it, right? The threat of that being there is such a nightmare that everybody's got to be ready. And Evie over here on this Kennen, who remember was the target of focus early from RNG, who did have a couple of positioning whoopsies, I guess we'll call them, that got him in some trouble. But he's sitting on Proto Belt, he's sitting on Shadow Flame, he's sitting on Sorcerer's Shoes. This is the 1-2-3 spell pin punch that turns that Kennen ulti into a torpedo.
And he has the flash. He's got that little bit of extra nos in the back pocket when he needs to pick up speed, and that's where I think Evie is really going to be able to shine at this next fight. If he can get the positioning on towards RNG, because, I mean, Gala, incredibly short range. Xiaohu kind of needs to be up close and personal to a certain extent as well to get his damage off. So if you can get in there, that's going to look fantastic.
And when you're talking about Xiaohu and Gala, the other thing to remember, no Guardian Angels, no stopwatches. That's what makes it even deadlier. Evie getting caught now again, just when I got done praising him, it could be lights out. Ming goes over the Hex Tech gate. Evie goes into the ground. 0 and 4, unfortunately, for the Lightning.
And those are the plays. RNG just keeps leaning down towards Evie's side, using that single target damage we talked about. Xiaohu, of course, with the global ultimate, just makes it so easy for RNG to execute upon. And luckily for the side of DFM, I mean, for RNG, nothing on the opposite side able to be taken because we do see Wei leaning that way. They were able to get some vision up on top side. Top side doesn't matter, guys. This Dragon's coming up in 45 seconds.
Exactly. This is a huge moment for RNG because DFM getting a hold of the Hex Tech Soul with that Chain Lightning slowing proc makes things a lot scarier. So Dagda, I want to ask you, if you're RNG, what is the recipe for success with 30 seconds to go till this thing?
I mean, it definitely feels like getting back onto the map and trying to find angles where you can actually set up vision, stop DFM from having multiple different ways that they can go for flanks is going to be best, but it kind of felt like they needed to get a pick beforehand, right? And that's what they've been trying to do with Xiaohu, with Ming as well, because it's straight up front to back, which is what RNG looks like they're about to force. I think DFM have this. They've just got such a strong front line. Great peel for Yutapon on the back line. With 3 items on the Trist, he's going to wreck RNG's front line.
And remember, Evie didn't waste the flash when he died there in bottom lane. He knew that it's better to just die and still have that for the soul fight than even use it to get away and live. So let's see it. DFM starting up the Drake, losing a little bit of patience there on it, so it'll reset slightly. Just above 6k health now. DPS continuing here. Steel fires off the ulti. Ming's gonna be here in the front. Harp tanking back on the other side. Drake is low. It is secured. Hex Tech Soul over to DFM. RNG tries to run, but Yutapon still ready to go. Breathe gets one back on the other side, and Xiaohu's doing an amazing job kiting him out. RNG with an outplay, but Evie gets the ult that will slice right through them. 3 for 3. Soul to DFM.
There's the flash from Evie to get in onto the backline of RNG, but RNG, I mean, you still got Wei, you still got Breathe up, so DFM won't be able to get anything more, but they got away with Soul, and they'll be happy with that one.
DFM just off to such a great start. We're going to see here, too, them able to force their way in. Maokai ultimate doing so much to prevent other members from RNG coming through, and then Yaharong to get multiple members of RNG locked down. We can see resets already coming through from Yutapon to be able to get more done. Sure, Breathe takes with the support on the back half, but DFM already got what they wanted.
And that was the big point for me in that fight. Breathe spent so much time trying to chase DFM, get around the pit, get into a position that he was basically, like, negligible. He hit 1 Q in an auto attack and took the Leona down. Like, good for you, buddy. The rest of your team is going down, so RNG tried to find the flank, and it pays dividends for DFM.
Gentlemen, DFM are even in kills and up 4 Drakes to 1 with the Soul completed against RNG. The same RNG that is 18-0 all time against minor region teams. The same RNG that is from the LPL who are 7-0 versus the LJL as a region. This would be a massive win to start this series with 1 in the W column for the side of Detonation FocusMe. They've been playing it well so far. Dagda, let me ask you, how do they close it out clean?
I mean, your best way to try and do this is keeping Yaharong on these side lanes for a bit. He's he has to draw multiple people across. Like, Xiaohu can't really deal with them. So then for DFM, trying to play around the rest of your crew, set up vision for the likes of Baron, and if Yaharong ends up ever drawing multiple members down to the bottom side, immediately turn over towards the Baron.
I feel like it's also important to mention, right, the fact that DFM have 2 TPs, RNG only have 1, so...
Oh boy! Yaharong getting jumped on here. RNG trying to commit to this, but now they got to be careful. Soul Unbound's ready to go. Evie shows up. Slicing Maelstrom's already going. Evie goes into stasis now to buy himself a little bit of extra time. The ulti comes down, but Evie goes out. They're still looking for a little bit more damage. Yaharong's being chased. He gets away from 3. A double kill back over to Harp. It's a 2 for 1, favoring the side of DFM.
And DFM just continue to do it. RNG know things are getting dicey. They feel the pressure, so they try to all in for the pick, but DFM just still have the tools to outmaneuver. Now they're targeting towards his Baron.
And this has just been such a smart draft from DFM, right? Every time Gala tries to go into these fights to the short-range Kaisa, there's Yaharong's ultimate, there's Evie's ultimate, there's Steel's ultimate, there's a solar eclipse that's coming his way as well. It feels like he cannot get access to these fights. And when Xiaohu is being pinpointed down immediately...
Oh, there's the Baron already gone as RNG tried to go for Hex Gates to see if there was any potential way to stop it there. But now Wei and Breathe are behind enemy lines. They must try to exfiltrate. Breathe is going to get jumped on now by 2 tanks and an AD carry. It's not a good place to be, but it's better than the graveyard, and that's where he's going. Shut down, credit over to Yaharong. 5v4 for 45 seconds.
And we can see RNG, they know they're in a dicey position, need to go for this pick, but Yaharong's incredibly tanky. Death Stance, Sunfire already completed, manages to just dash out, and Evie wanting to all in on Gala. This initially kind of helps RNG because the fight's split up. It isn't just all of DFM jumping at you, so they're able to get that first pick, but still, with members like Ming and Xiaohu separated on one side, we see Yutapon, Steel, Harp, all the AoE CC able to come out.
And it feels like we're really starting to see the training arc of DFM now coming to fruition, right? You look at these guys who have been screaming against like VCS teams, LPL teams, everyone that they can get their hands on to try and improve. They've been at the top of the LGL for so long. They made it to groups for the first time last year, and now they're looking primed to take down RNG in game number 1.
I mean, for so many people, myself included, DFM is synonymous with the LJL just because of how frequently they represent their region. They are the cream of the crop of Japanese League of Legends, and they are showing it here in this first game. 11-9 against RNG, up over 5,000 gold, armed with a Baron yet again. Yutapon ready to be played around. 4 items completed plus the boots. This man is just a turret wrecking machine, and he's got his tank line and his CC Kennen right next to him. They can't get anywhere close.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like RNG really even have the tools to be able to answer. Like, sure, Xiao can try and wave clear with his abilities, but the Tristana range coming out, the amount of damage he's able to dish out so quickly really isn't going to be able to stop the Baron pushes coming out from DFM. So now we're up to a 6K gold lead. Elder's going to come up soon, and it just feels... It feels just like a matter of time, you know, before we put the coffin, you know, in the dirt for RNG.
Because say goodbye.
Because at this point, right, you're just waiting for those picks to come through, but DFM aren't giving them over.
Well, I like the fact that you mentioned the Elder, because for me, if you're in a position like RNG where you feel like your back is against the wall, this is where you full send it. This is your Hail Mary. You might be down 1 Drake to 4. It's not the old League of Legends where that matters for the Elder. This is the cheat code Elder that automatically kills the other dudes when they aren't yet dead, and that's what you need to win here.
And it feels like a huge amount of it is going to rely on Gala, right? 4 items now on this Kaisa. We've seen him pop off in this champion before. He needs to do it, but on the opposite side, Yaharong looking incredibly strong. You're nearly finished off that LDR for Yutapon as well, pushing that full build. DFM are in such a good spot right now, and where's the vision for RNG, right? We already talked about DFM. The front to back is popping off, and RNG are going to have to face check this.
Oh, man, that is so scary. Maokai in the river has shown to be one of the most frightening things in all of this play-in stage, and now it's the reality for RNG to have to go near. Evie with the flash Maelstrom ready to join in. Breathe is over the wall looking for some sort of a flank. Yaharong's gonna keep him away. DFM ready to turn this into a PvP type of fight, but it's Harp who dies first. RNG find themselves a potential angle. The Drake's still at half. DFM have lost a man, but RNG have injured health bars. Xiaohu tries to fire the Weaver's Wall through there and disrupt him, doesn't get a lot of value out of it. DFM taking it very slow, very steady. RNG now gonna be the ones taking the Drake aggro. Yutapon, keep your eyes on him. Tristana with that Guardian Angel ready to go. DFM trying to keep RNG back. Remember that Breathe does have the teleport. He would be able to retreat and rejoin if he felt he needed to. Yaharong clearing out some vision. Yutapon trying to get the wave pushed up. Now you got a TP coming back in from Evie. The Elder Drake's down to 2K. Elder Drake will be secured by Gala, but now Evie's coming into the fight. Gala's gonna be taken low. He won't be taken out. He fires back. Elder execution. Gala finally dies. Everybody with Xiaohu has been deleted, and DFM are marching down mid lane.
Yutapon needs to find Xiaohu though. He will be able to reset and should be able to clear out these waves, but this should be the base broken for DFM. Once more, the team fighting from the LJL is coming up huge.
LPL's 4th seed may have gotten the Elder Drake, but they were so injured from the previous fight, they couldn't get anything out of it. Yaharong has chased Xiaohu to the ends of the earth and stopped him from getting back in time. DFM will do what no minor region team has done before and take down RNG in game 1.
I am so ecstatic for DFM. It's only one game, but what a huge victory when LJL hasn't been able to even take a game off the LPL before. Again, RNG, our most recent